Welcome, welcome. Good evening. I am Dee from H&D Abroad. On this channel, we talk about the 360 view of moving abroad, but on Thursdays. I talk to my sisters about how they are growing and caring for themselves, especially when they are making big life decisions like choosing to move abroad, retiring, transitioning through perimenopause, menopause. We cover it all. So, if that is the kind of content that is nurturing and nourishing to you, I want to invite you to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and share this presentation. It is especially developed for you. I want to thank my sisters who are already joining. You know the drill. When you come into the room, we say hello to each other. We say hello in the chat. Thank you so much. Abroadability is here. Shell PhD is here. Servant teacher Nikki. These are my sisters. These are people who check on me, check in with me, and are a part of this community and are in their own abroad journey themselves, travel journey themselves. But more importantly, we understand that our mental well-being, our physical well-being is worth protecting and nurturing and giving way to. So I thought I would bring together some professionals because, as on this channel, we talk about the mental health. We talk about why it's important to take care of yourself in this way. So I brought some sisters, and I'm just going to let them come into the room, introduce themselves, and get this discussion started. So, as we always say, this is a discussion. Put your comments, especially if you have examples of some of the things that we're talking about, put them in the chat. If you have questions, we've got licensed marriage and family therapist on, and a licensed clinical social worker. They are mental health professionals, but they may not be your mental health professional. So general discussions, general conversations, this is an open platform. So we want to remind you of the confidentiality that you may want to have. In the description, before we get started today, I wanted to make sure that you knew how to follow up with each of the guests that we have on today. They'll talk more about their services and what they're offering, but what I'm going to just start by doing is letting everybody introduce themselves. Tori, Prophet, is a good friend. I'm going to have her introduce herself first, then Dr. Erica, then Courtney. We'll go that way.
Well, hi, everyone, and hi, Dee. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with all of you guys, and it's so nice to meet the other therapists here. My name is Tori Prophet. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist licensed in Texas, and I'm in private practice. My private practice is called Design to Heal, and I also have a women's community called Next Chapter Collective. And so one of the things that I was really concerned about was, how are my sisters going to get what they need when they go abroad? And how can we figure out what the resources are, what people are doing that maybe might be to their detriment at some point? And so I'm just really glad to be here to be able to have this conversation. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. I am thrilled and honored to be here, Dee. Nice to meet you, and just thank you for the opportunity. I am Dr. Erica Wilkins, licensed marriage and family therapist and coach. I have been clinically active in seeing folks for over 20 years, individuals, couples, and families. In another part of my life, I was a full-time professor, where my research area was around the residual effects of slavery and clinical implications for therapists. And so that segued into my now completely clinical life in private practice, where I just have a fascination for the way that Black folks' migratory experiences are connected to our healing processes. And I believe that as a diaspora, we are now like in a major new migratory point, and that we don't leave our trauma at home. Like all of our complex epigenetic trauma is still with us. And that's led me to have a real special place in my heart for folks who are expatriating out of the US in particular. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Dee. My name is Courtney Leak, LCSW, and I am a licensed clinical social worker and coach as well. And I have my practice, Haven Wellness, and I'm an expat. So I live in Panama City, Panama. I've been here for 2.5 years. It's insane that I've been here this long with my now 13-year-old son. And so yeah, for me, it's about how to serve while also doing my own healing work, having my own journey, stretching myself creatively as a business owner in order to meet the needs of my clients and meet my own needs financially, and as someone who believes in helping people heal. So I'm just excited to have the conversation.
And that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to have a conversation. As I said before, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We will make sure that we have an opportunity to ask them. But just, I think to get started, can you all talk a little bit about Courtney? Courtney started with she's an expat. How do you relate to Black women who are saying, and I'm going to use Stephanie Perry's phrase of Black women cannot heal where they've been traumatized. If that is how people are centering this conversation, or I just need the space and place, I need some distance from my everyday life to begin to hear the call that is inside of me. That's asking me to pay attention. Sometimes you don't even know the direction. Can you talk a little bit about maybe the personal side of why you do this work?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, this journey really started in like 2016. I just felt like there were some messages being sent by the choices of the collective, and just noticed a shift in how unsafe I felt. I'm from North Carolina, and I'm from Charlotte, which is a very, diverse, open place, and raising this little boy, and it was getting hard. And I started to notice how that was impacting the quality of my work and on simple, like my memory and just different things. And I wondered who I could be and what I could do if there was less noise and less fear. And so I started to ask questions, talk to my board, do all of the things around what would it look like if I didn't live in the contiguous 50 or in the contiguous 48, or lived on United States soil and maintained a practice. And really just realized I would have to be creative in some ways, and also that I was worth it. And Dr. Wilkins spoke about epigenetics. I also wondered what the ancestral healing experience would be to get to choose our home, and what that would do for my epigenetic healing to get to say, no, I live here. And I don't live here because people in my lineage were stolen from their home and dropped here, and we've made do, and we've done a hell of a job, but we've made do. I choose living here. And what that opened up in me around my courage, my choice, my voice, my power, is how I expanded into the creativity to then be able to continue my practice and my business in a way that felt more ethical and appropriate for me, and is also changing and shifting all the time because I have room to change and shift. I don't have to be as rigid because I don't feel as constrained. I think a lot of times we can be rigid and it feels like we're not able to move, but it's because we're living in constraint, and that is hindering our ability to be in flow.
If you need to take a breath during this conversation, I'm going to encourage you to breathe, because I have sat on this topic and have hoped that folks will see it and connect. So take a breath, because there are some things that are going to come up inside of you if you're really tuning in. I just about guarantee some story, either in the chat or that'll be shared by today's guest, are going to unearth some things and make you curious. And that, I think, is the beautiful thing about this process, is being curious. That's literally how I found Dr. Erica. I was just curious about Colombia, and somebody shared some information and I was like, who is that? And what are they doing? So Dr. Erica, can you talk about your journey? I think you're based in Pennsylvania. Okay, there we go.
I'm a Philly girl. And so Philly is what I call home. But I've done some extensive traveling in Medellin as well as Mexico City. And for me, golly, it's like, how deep you want to go? For me, I became an LMFT not because I was attracted to working with marriages and families. I was attracted to the field of licensed marriage and family therapy because where I got my master's degree was very much based around a Black womanist theory. And in the country, Tori probably knows Drexel University at the time's reputation. And so I was very invested in the delivery of healing to our people from a liberatory vantage point. And I feel like throughout my career, that's been a theme in all of the work that I've done, whether it's been in the classroom or giving presentations or writing or clinically. It's always like pushing the edge of like, what does it mean to be liberated for you? What does it mean to be liberated for me? And it's not a one size fits all, and it's not perfect, right? So I think what I often find myself telling travelers is there's no place in this world that is not full of anti-Blackness, even the continent. And I think that a lot of expats can become disappointed or disenchanted when they are looking for a utopia and find out, oh my gosh, wait, I'm like in Jamaica. And how the heck am I seeing vestiges of anti-Blackness here? And, I think that that's one of the things that causes people's just to feel uncomfortable in their space, And so with that, I guess part of the challenge is, how do you push towards liberation in the pervasive context of anti-Blackness? And if I could have a conversation with Stephanie Perry, that would be part of the conversation, would be, okay, yeah, so, but if we really go down that path, then it could lead us to a dead end. But if we remain hopeful, how do we say, what does liberation look like for me? And I'm going to radically define my own liberation, even in a context that is unjust. I'm not going to wait on them to, grant me the liberation that I deserve.
Beautiful. Tori, did you want to add your own connection? Because Exodus Summit has been giving. If you're looking for multiple paths to what Dr. Erica was talking about, finding my freedom. My freedom doesn't have to look like yours, but trust me, we all out here want to breathe easily. We want to have less stressors, either because of distance or because I've said no, which is a complete sentence. So can you talk a little bit about your background story in relationship to travel, move abroad, and healing?
Sure, I sure can. And one thing I wanted to say first, before I get to that, what came up for me when Courtney and Dr. Erica were talking, I was thinking back to my training as a marriage and family therapist. We're trained in systems, and I think in systems, right? And so just everything you guys were saying was bringing that home to me of how we exist inside a system, inside a system, inside a system, and how there's this continuous feedback between all the parts of the system that affects us. And we're not always aware of what the effects will be when we move between and out of some of those systems. But it has, a wide range of effects on all of us. It's like that ripple effect. That's one of the reasons I was drawn to marriage and family therapy was because I was fortunate enough to grow up in a family where I felt very loved and adored and taken care of. And ease was kind of my own lifestyle as a child, and I wanted to be able to work with families, to know that children could be safe within the families. And so that's kind of how I got into this field. And I specialize in women from pregnancy, postpartum, to perimenopause and beyond. And when I first came across Stephanie's channel, just her spirit really spoke to me, but also it really spoke to that inherent sense of freedom I've always been oriented toward. I've always kind of just marched to the beat of my own drum, and to hear someone like her show me another way to do it. I'd already been wanting to leave the United States and travel more. I still haven't made my exodus yet, but I'm on my way, and I see how the transition is just really impacting so many of us in so many different ways. And I've grown to really love and care for this community. And I want to do as much as I can to help us live freedom the way we individually want to.
I guess I can say the timing of today's presentation, I think it is not a coincidence that you have found us today, whether you have found us live. And so welcome to everybody that's joined us live, or if you are finding this in the future, because I found a presentation from someone that I've been following. Jay lives in the Dominican Republic. His channel is Abroad with Jay. And just a couple of weeks ago, he posted, "My mental health was dying in the US, so I left." That is the title. I have it linked in the description. And because he's not just talking about that, this is, first of all, this is a Black man, which is in itself an anomaly. But the other anomaly that it brought out for me is we're talking about mental health to Black people primarily on this channel. I'm a Black woman. I speak from that experience. And the title of today's presentation is about mental health, and we struggle with that here. How do you see helping us to connect? Because there are real emotional things that happen on your way out and can open up when you get to your place that you may not have anticipated. But we battle with, we don't tell folk our business. You got to be strong. And what if I say I'm struggling to the people who were like, why did you leave that good job? You sold your house. You didn't, you've abandoned your life, and now you saying you're struggling. And within the stigma bubble of specifically the African American community, I want to touch these are the systemic things that I think that impact this discussion. I want to talk about it up front. Anybody who wants to jump in on that?
I'll jump in and say, part of the naysaying that can occur before people leave is connected to our oppression and the brainwashing that I contend occurred during integration. Frankly, I think integration done jacked us up. And that some things that we knew as a community that sustained us, that we abandoned some of those things in the interest of comfort, with all the air quotes, the comfort of the education, the comfort of the car, the house, having all the things, and like the things that America tells us on paper are supposed to keep us comfortable. And really, I would argue that it keeps us nullified. I'm gonna say that. And so, I think part of it is being able to understand that the people that are naysaying from a position of they can't conceptualize what survival looks like outside of the creature comforts that have been spelled to us from a Eurocentric perspective. But I believe that like our natural state is really migratory. Like we've always, even when we were on the continent, we've always migrated for survival. And that like part of it is like getting back to and trusting our ancestral memory about how to survive, despite the feedback, because there's a lot of feedback when you're going to make that jump.
Yeah, I'll say that. I also think it's important that we are seeking support from people who we admire in that area. So if I am doing a courageous thing, then I may need to talk to courageous people. And if my mama not courageous, I love her, and I got to be honest that she's probably not going to instill courage or pour courage onto me. A lot of times we go back when the trauma, when the hurt starts to bubble up, we go back to the places, if we're honest, where some of it was implanted, hoping that maybe this time they'll say it right or do it right or fix it or heal it. And if they had those tools, we probably wouldn't be in that hurting place to begin with. So, oh no, I think y'all lost me. What happened? Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you. Your video is paused.
Oh, my phone, my video completely blacked out. I don't even know where I went. Okay, sorry. That's the devil. But you know what I mean? So I think we have to be honest with, who did I seek support from? Do I have evidence to support they can be supportive in this way? Do I have evidence that they're a truth teller but not a naysayer? And it's no thing, I think it was Dr. Wilkins who spoke, no thing is going to cure you. We are who heal us. So no thing, no person, no place, no experience is going to cure you. What some of us are doing is moving to places where we have more room to look at our stuff, experience our stuff, heal our stuff. Like I think people think I have crossed over a threshold into a new country and now all of a sudden it's going to be all better. That's not how better works. And so some of us are disappointed that we done did all this moving and we still gonna have to do this work. and we're still going to have to look at this grief, and we're still going to have to sit with the abuse, and that's unfair, and it is. And I think that is the place. If I am looking for a quick fix, I'm never going to find it, because it doesn't exist. And I'm worth more than a quick fix. I'm worth more than a Band-Aid. And if I can see that in myself and then do the work around it, then I will hold, oh yeah, I'm sad, or I have trauma, or I'm grieving, and I still made the right choice for me.
I don't want to leave you out, Tori, because this is rich. Come on.
Well, yeah, and I think, backing up to one of the things Courtney said was, when you go to that person who doesn't have courage, right, to tell them about this courageous thing you're about to do, you're probably wanting that validation, right? You're trying to heal something, like she said, from a person who doesn't have that to give, right? And so having that support system of people that you know who to go to for what, right? You don't go to a steak restaurant, when you want tacos, right? You know where to go to get what you need. And so building up the community around you is so important. I think so many people are isolated, but, reach out to somebody in your circle that has one of those qualities that you're looking for, so that they can lift you up. I remember when I took a trip to Haiti, my dad, I love him. I'm a daddy's girl, but he was a big naysayer on that trip and was telling me a lot of things about how dangerous it would be for me there. I decided to just listen to that for a moment, realize that he was scared for me because he's my daddy. I let him have that, and I went on my trip. And so I think it can be really tricky to not internalize someone else's fears and naysaying, and then think, well, maybe I shouldn't go, or get there and then you're struggling and think, maybe I should not have been there. Well, let's take a minute. Wherever you go, there you are. This is just another opportunity to deal with those things. You were saying how sometimes when things slow down, when you're in a country where the pace is different, right? You're not busy all the time, not running from here to there. Now you have time to actually think and sit with your feelings. That can be scary, right? And it can be hard to make sense of that by yourself.
Aisha's in here putting the world on notice. So look here. Leaving felt like I was leaving an abusive relationship. I did not realize the healing that was needed until I was exalted, or probably exhausted, abroad. I almost want to do a session on, moving abroad on fumes. The idea that we are in a space of toxicity that is propelling us to do a new thing. So I'm beginning to recognize that the check engine light to my mental health is on. Okay, so in medicine they talk about signs and symptoms. Let's just jump in and talk about maybe signs and symptoms, before you leave, and maybe somebody else can tag team on, signs and symptoms of that discomfort or that friction, that what it could look like when you've left. You think this was the silver bullet, getting away from, creating the distance from the thing the thing or things or people or processes that were harmful for me. How can I begin to use, maybe I'm going to use checklist as like a shortcut, the cheat code, but like, what are the things that you're like, okay, if you are experiencing blah, 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 pay attention, because those may be signs that your brain, your body is asking for support.
Well, I think one of the first most basic things, and then we can get a little more specific later, is one of the first most basic things is, what is your day-to-day functioning like? I think, right? Are you functioning day to day in a state of fight or flight or freeze? I think a lot of people are familiar with that idea. How are you getting through the day? How are you coping? Right? Are you struggling to get out of bed in the morning? Right? Or even looking at how you're functioning differently than the way you were before, and just noticing what is there. Right? I think it sounds like it takes a bit of time for reflection and some noticing. And maybe a lot of people aren't used to doing that. So I would like to hear some more conversation around what to do when you're not used to doing that. But yeah, I think starting with taking a look at yourself and how you're doing day to day, and really asking, am I okay? What is a good day for me? Our friend Winsome Alexander did a show on Big Up Yourself about mental health care abroad. And I was reviewing that in preparation for this. And that was a good question I thought that they had in there. What does it mean when you say it was a good day? What does it mean when you say it wasn't? You know?
I love that, Tori. Observing the day to day, because I just want to tag on and say that in my work with Black folks, and 90% of my practice is biggity Black, I call it. In my work with Black folks, so much of us are disconnected with how we're feeling. And I believe that's part of our historical trauma, is keep producing, keep working. Don't worry that your arm's falling off or that you have a migraine. Keep producing, keep working. And so I just want to support and highlight the necessity that folks start practicing, just learning how they're feeling, because I think it's unfortunately an alien state for many of us. Other signs that your check light is on empty, I'm gonna chunk into like trauma signs. So either hyperarousal or hypoarousal. That's real technical. I'm gonna make it less technical and say, when folks are experiencing trauma, usually you're either experiencing symptoms associated with anxiety, feeling real sped up, or the exact opposite. The slow down, the disconnect, the feeling of this is surreal. If you take the pandemic, I don't know about y'all, I'll out myself and say that, during lockdown, that was a massive trauma that as society, we're not talking about enough. But there was this surreal feeling of like, wait, I'm living, but I feel disconnected. That type of feeling, also numbing, that's associated with hypoarousal. So if you feel kind of more sped up than your baseline, as Tori talked about, or if you feel just kind of eerily disconnected, almost like this feeling of having to pinch yourself to, feel like you're here, that could be a sign that your check light is on empty or close to it.
And I'll speak more to once you leave, because I do think, kind of like what I was saying, it's not a fast cure. I personally just had all these visions and dreams of what I was going to do and hit the ground running. When I got to Panama, I was tired. When we come out of trauma, when we come out of crisis, when we come out of pain, we are tired. We sleep. You know what I mean? Like, that is a big part of it. And for a minute, kind of slipped into some shame and blame. Like, you done made all these moves. You done said all these things. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And look at you sleeping, 10, 11 hours at night, taking a nap in the middle of the day. And then, of course, my training kicked in and I was like, oh, you're resetting your nervous system. That's what's happening. It's okay. But if someone doesn't have that information, they will continue to spiral down into that shame and blame. People are exhausted. Like Aisha saying, I slept for a year. I feel like 2023 was a lot about comfort and care. And there was anxiety. You know, I chose to move to a country where I didn't fluently speak the language. There were worries. Your brain will tell you so-and-so's talking about you, or you're avoiding going into things or connecting with people, not wanting to attend things. Like isolation, I think, is a symptom for a lot of folks when they move abroad. Irritation. I mean, I also will say one of the things is that we have to decolonize and decentralize the American way as well, and deal with some of the, I had to have some moments with myself where I was like, you're irritated because you're American. Like you got an attitude right now because you want them to do it the way you're used to them doing it. And I need to sit with the fact that some of that entitlement and American way rubbed off on me too. And I got to, deconstruct some of that. And so there was irritation, there was frustration, there was exhaustion, isolation. I think those are some of the things that, and just being more teary, being more worried. Someone spoke about like worrying about your other people, worrying. I know that for me has kicked up now that this new presidency has started. Like I get nervous, I get like anxious and start to spin sometimes about who doesn't have their passport and what if something pops off and how am I gonna get everybody here and where can people, so some of that can stay with you as well when you're out. So I think those are some of the symptoms and signs of stress when you are out of the country.
When I picked this title, I kind of wondered if it would, kind of unsettle some folk. And I think that is that's literally the shovel that I was using, was the contrast of I'm in a beautiful place. I have achieved a goal. I have made it where others are struggling toward it, toward the freedom that that the internet is saying is the glitz, the glamour, and then I get here and like I'm not the person I pictured I would be, as Courtney mentioned. So, but if you are just joining the conversation, what I want to pull forward is that we have been discussing this evolution of yourself, that you are feeling something or responding to something, even if it's not mental health, maybe it's, financially, I got to get out of here because I can't make it here. And I want to have a better life, a life that I can't afford. I get there and it costs more than I think. Like there is the opportunity for friction in the long-term travel, move abroad space that I wish more people would spend time talking about, so that there's a bit of reality to our conversations. I think the other thing as content creators, and we've got several on here today, is that we have a responsibility to share what is real. Tori said, you take you with you. I'm telling you, your anxiety will follow you. Your depression will follow you. It's asking to be addressed. So you've gotten to the point where I recognize from the checklist of things that our guests have talked about, I recognize that in me. And I'm in the States. And I want to work with somebody. Tori, I think you are well placed because you and I have had this discussion before. One of the things you told me is it's not my job to figure it out. Okay. It's not my job to figure out, can I take my therapist with me? Just like taking things that bring me comfort, remind me of home. Y'all, I'm taking my yellow grits because that's my comfort food. And that's how that reminds me of my grandmother, my mother. You know, it is my comfort food. And I'm gonna make sure there's some okra and some black eyed peas because those are the things that tie me to who I am and connect me to home, my sense of home. But there's some things that you should be aware of entering a therapeutic relationship that I think might need to be aware of. So how did you want to introduce that part of the conversation?
Sure. Yeah, that's really important because, as a consumer of therapy, you're not going to know all the rules, regulations, and guidelines that we must adhere to. I'm an LMFT in Texas. I don't know what all the rules and guidelines are for Courtney, right? Or for Dr. Erica. And so I don't think it's on the consumer to know that, but you should have an awareness of some basic things. And I think a lot of people can be caught off guard when they find out they can't, their therapist license does not carry a passport, right? When they find that out. But I would think that if you are working with a therapist, you are talking to them about the fact that you're going to move or that you want to move abroad. And my hope would be that your therapist would be helping you to ask the right questions about that, right? And coming up with a care plan. When I have clients just go on vacation, we come up with a care plan. How are you going to take care of yourself while you're gone and we're not meeting, right? Like even if my clients that are in Texas, when they go away for the summer, we develop a plan so that they know what to do when they need the help and I'm not accessible, right? I do my research to find out how I can support them while they're away, and I let them know that. But typically, you're a marriage and family therapist license in the United States cannot just necessarily do therapy with a client who is in Mexico. I've done a little bit of research. It has been hard to find the actual steps. What do you do? But there are certifications available that therapists can get in different countries. Some countries, maybe not. I'm in some therapist group trying to find out some more information, and hopefully I'll be able to pass that on to you guys once I get more information. But yeah, if a person already has a therapist, then I really hope that the move is part of that conversation and a plan is being made for how that person can take care of themselves, how they know when to reach out for help, right? How to find out the crisis hotlines in the country that you're going to, right? The mental health helplines in the country that you're going to. Your therapist should be guiding you to ask these questions and looking it up, maybe even together.
What I am most grateful for, and this is how I found and love what Courtney is doing, and as I learn more about what Dr. Erica is doing and what Tori is doing, is that y'all, they do these licensed professionals can also do a variety of things. So there's the bucket of things that are classified under therapy. That is an excellent reason to seek out someone other than your mama, sister, cousin, friend to help you, guide you, help you develop tools, coping skills, face the fear, the trauma. That is what they do. But guess what? They can also coach you. They can also enter a coaching role that is separate from the therapy role that still allows you to develop skills and have a check-in person in the health coaching role. And so there is, but those who are coaches should understand the divide between the scope of practice that separates coaching from therapy. Anybody want to like break that down a little bit more? I tried to keep it high level, but to help folks understand the distinction between the two, because I don't want folks to feel like if I'm outside the US, I don't have anything. I can't work with somebody who has skill and training, but what qualifies me to continue to have that that support that I know that I need?
Yeah, I can speak to it a little bit. And, I think Tori's spot on. There are differences with different licensures. And she's 100% right. None of that is anything to do, like you, the consumer, you, the client, do not have to do any of that legwork, or you shouldn't be doing any of that legwork. So I'm licensed in North Carolina, and a couple of things for social work, it's not about where I am, it's about where they are. I did some training before, even before COVID, because we were going digital at the company I worked at and offering virtual. And so we did a lot of virtual trainings around that. And it was a university. So there were students going home in the summer, and we had all of these questions. And I was the one who, even though my university was in South Carolina, I was the one who worked with the North Carolina students because I was right on the line, because I have the North Carolina license. At the time I had South Carolina as well, but I had the North Carolina license that allowed me to be in South Carolina and them to be in North Carolina, because it's about where my client is. And for social work, I can't speak to others. It's more about being in communication with the country that the person is. I had a client do a year abroad in South Africa. And so I had to figure out all of these things. And they were like, we don't have issue with you working with this client with it, because they were an existing client, and you need to check with South Africa where they are, all of these things. And so we were able to collaborate. So sometimes your board is willing to collaborate and work. Now, North Carolina board is also a part of this big lawsuit, which I think is making them more agreeable. I feel like I'm going to keep talking because I feel like I froze again, but I know y'all can hear me. So there's some things kind of keeping them nice, if you will, and I am grateful for that, and utilizing that to support people and help other clinicians figure it out. And coaching people to have not all coaches are the same. Let me say that. There are a lot of people who are coaches only. They do not have this therapeutic, these letters, these degrees, these things behind our names. I'm not saying that coaches can't be, I think my VPN is being mean. I think that's what's happening here. Can y'all still hear me? Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. So not all coaches have the certain qualifications and the necessary skill set that you may need, and a coach can be helpful. But when you are a therapist and you add in coaching certifications and coaching skills, you can really be focused on specific issues. So when I'm working with someone around a specific issue, with therapy, it's pretty open. We can go where my clinical, abilities go and your desire to heal go. With coaching, it's more specific. So coaching, around expat transition, coaching around a certain skill set or a certain thing they're trying to learn, a certain thing they're trying to move past and work through. So, but there's support. I think I'm saying all that to say there's support. And if you have someone who has a therapeutic or clinical background, that is going to be a part of their work with you, but they're not going to be diagnosing you. They're not going to be able to complete certain paperwork and things of that nature that they could under their license. It will be more about skill teaching and supporting you without that clinical piece. Of course, they're clinically informed, but that clinical piece won't necessarily be included in how you work with them. And I apologize for my, I don't know what's going on with my stuff today.
We heard you just loud and clear, and it was all very powerful and informative. And Dee, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. I'm a mute.
I hope I didn't interrupt you, Courtney. I have a spin on this, or like pushing the conversation in a little bit of a different direction, because something that I think is a really important part of this conversation are folks that either are on a psychotropic medication regimen or maybe need to be on one. And let me back up and say, I'm gonna sound like I'm one of them therapists that just throw medicine at the clients. That's not me. Okay, so like philosophically, I'm not heavy-handed with like wanting clients to get medication, but I also believe that it's socially just when people need medication, that moving to another country is not going to magically all of a sudden make your, let's say, bipolar disorder disappear, or schizophrenia, or severe depression, or anxiety. And what I've observed a little bit too often among expats are folks dipping and dabbling in illicit substances in place of their psychotropic medications that they were taking in the United States. I felt like it was really important for me to add that to the discussion. And so what I would strongly encourage folks is, if you have been advised to take medication for psychiatric purposes, as was stated before, get a plan from your prescribing psychiatrist, general practitioner, whoever it was from the US, to figure out how you're going to get your meds in whatever country you expatriate to, because they may not even have those medications available in that country. And so to really get creative, to have a plan beforehand. And I strongly encourage you, y'all, the weed, the shrooms, what if I heard people using ayahuasca, like I've heard many stories. That is not going to take the place of your psychotropic medication. And it can be a really scary situation if you're in another country and really needing your medications and have no plan to get them.
Excellent. You definitely need a medication plan and a backup medication plan. As we saw during the pandemic, there were times when folks could not get their medication because of manufacturing things. So having a couple of backup locations where I can go, I can present my prescription and have that prescription filled. That is vitally important. I also I think in this part of the conversation, when we're talking about the different levels of care, is that the title Crying in Paradise could actually be a sign that things that had been held together therapeutically with medication may no longer be working. And so being self-aware. I'm bringing this up because I think one of the things that, okay, so a little self-disclosure. One of the ways that I navigated life as a mother was to turn off my connection to my feelings, to just press through. And when I got to the point where I was crying or having, maybe an anger outburst or fresh, that irritation that just seemed really irrational compared to what the situation was, is a sign. So we talked about that earlier. If you're just joining us, we talked about that earlier in the conversation of how to be self-aware, and that the busyness sometimes is also the intentional barrier or the barrier. Booked and busy, like those are what do you call that? Black excellence, Black businesswoman concepts that we have put forward, that when we are shifting our lives, that then things come forward. And I'm hopeful, because if you have your hand out, and I'm going to go to Lorana's statement here, because she said moving abroad can definitely be a strategic part of a healing lifestyle. I hope that that's what you're really moving abroad also to incorporate is a healing lifestyle. It is the new way I want to live, and there is friction there. Removing the things that take energy to allow more of that energy to be spent on healing can be easier when living abroad. As you all have built these beautiful micro circles, one-on-one coaching or group coaching or women focused coaching for people over 40, you can find the description of those opportunities in the description box of this video. How can those communities be helpful? Those opportunities for healing be helpful if you are making the first step? Maybe I should even back up with that. What's the barrier to the first step of mental health?
I think feeling. I think a lot of times, Dee, what you described, you said, I'm going to out myself a little bit. You outed, I think, most Black people in what you said, because that's part of our survival. Most of us, that's part of our coping mechanisms with all of this has been to disconnect. And so I really think the first step to be able to seek care for your mental health is to really dig down and get quiet and interrogate your feelings, interrogate your somatic experiences, how your body's feeling and why it's feeling the way it's feeling. I don't know. I think that maybe like having space and slowing down and getting quiet for Black folks is radical.
Sure, I totally agree with that. I was thinking time for reflection. I'm really big on reflection. And Dee, there was something that you were saying, when you outed yourself, right? And said that experience that all people have had and all moms I know for sure have had, right? I was thinking that was a tool that you used, right? And I'm sure it was effective sometimes, right? We didn't all get here without having gained some tools that have worked sometimes, right? But not all tools work all the time. Not all tools work in every situation. So I think one of the opportunities that a person gets perhaps when they move abroad is to finally unpack their toolbox and look at the anger and see how it was serving them and how it wasn't, right? When you disconnect, I'm not going to shame you for disconnecting when the big feelings come up with your children, because guess what? Maybe that helps you get to the next moment where you could make a repair with that child. Let's look at the tool of disconnection and how you've been using it. Sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't, right? Our ancestors had to learn so many tools that were adaptive then, but they aren't now, right? Maybe it worked for them to hide their feelings, not talk about their emotions, because that was dangerous back in the day. But now maybe we have a little more safety, or maybe now we can move to some place that has a little more safety to unpack that tool of being disconnected from your emotions.
I think I would also just add, sometimes it's our blessings that block us from healing because we feel like we have the degree and the family and the house and the money and the car and the this and that. And do I deserve to go somewhere and be heard, supported? Like, I think sometimes we have gaslit ourselves into believing, again, two things can be true at once. And I can have achieved a lot, done a lot, am a lot, and still have places where I need to heal and to be seen and validated. So I do think that can get in the way. I have a lot of people who are like, like literally have scheduled the session. They're like, I don't want to waste your time. I know you have clients with real issues. And I'm like, what's happening for you there? Why do you not see the value in your struggle, and that you deserve support and care? And I think for Black folks, especially when we made it, when we didn't hit the Black folk metrics that are placed in front of us to have achieved, we can gaslight ourselves into believing like, what am I to be sad for, angry for, hurt for? That happened, but look who I am now. And we try to achieve over and then dismiss our hurt and our trauma.
Oh, and especially as women, I think I see this so much with women. We will gaslight ourselves, right?
Mercy. Each one of you all, I could just do a whole session on the one thing each of you all are bringing forward. I'm going to bring forward one more big thing. So it's not you crying in paradise, but the person or little persons that you brought with you. I am experiencing joy, release, healing, just for being, just by being. But your little people, your partner is like, what did we just walk into? How do you, how could folks be aware and connected to their own joy, but that their people that are with them in the new space that's bringing them joy, or where they're experiencing joy, aren't connecting with that experience in the same way?
Yeah, I can speak to that. And I can't speak to it personally, because let me tell you who was Panamanian the moment he crossed the threshold at Tocumen Airport. Like, Carter was like, oh, this is the move. However, he did struggle leading up to it because he came unseen. When we came to get our residency, he hadn't been here yet. I had been here, but he had not. And so I kept checking in with him. I gave him permission to have any feeling he had. And that permission carried on into Panama. He could use that permission, and we've processed, the language and all of those different things. But I think really allowing everyone to be where they are, not forcing anyone to feel what you feel or want it the way you want it, allowing everyone's truth to be their truth, not arguing with them, not telling them or reminding them what was hard about America or wherever they were, like letting them have their grief, letting them figure out where they are in their grief. Is it sadness? Is it bargaining? Is it anger? And then also being open to negotiate. You know what I mean? Also being open to own that maybe we made the wrong choice. Maybe we made it the wrong way. Nothing is permanent. People were like, what if y'all get to Panama and hate it? I was like, then we'll go somewhere else. Like, not deciding that this is your salvation either. And that you are your freedom, you are your liberation, you are your salvation, you are your family, and being open to consider it in other ways if this is not working. But oftentimes people need to just be seen, heard, and validated, and be like, yeah, I miss Bojangles too, but I miss being able to go up the street and not meet a stranger and speak the language with them and engage and have an entire experience that didn't require Google Translate. That's fair. Is there anything you need from me around that? If you're angry, how can we express that anger? If you're sad, how can we weep together? My happiness doesn't exclude your feelings, and let me show up for you in that. And normally that can be enough. And if not, be open, let your ego go and be like, maybe we need to find happiness and connection somewhere else.
That's an area where, like they say, I feel some kind of way. Like, we didn't talk about this. No, mental health is a present awareness. We're encouraging you in this conversation to be aware in this moment today, that even if you are crying in paradise today, that may not be your today tomorrow. That may not. I keep a journal, and I was working with a therapist that asked me to get that journal. And thankfully, I've kept the same book. I do goals and, different writing in it every year. And I was able to look back 10 years and look at who was I back then, my thoughts, my feelings, my hopes, my dreams, disappointments that I wanted to get over. Nikki talked in the chat, was talking about guilt. Like, recognize who you are today and take note of it in some way, even if you leave yourself a video. But I feel like we don't recognize that breaking through can start as a pin light. And I'm hoping that today's conversation is a pin light in something either that you've not dealt with or that you have been able to find the light in what Dr. Erica has shared, what Tori has shared, what Courtney has shared here. I am a human being. My right by the divine that has placed me here is that the full spectrum of who I am, every thought, feeling it is mine to experience, to truly experience. And that includes joy and freedom. Don't miss out. Recognizing, one of our sisters put in the chat about struggling. It's hard to get out of bed. Sis, I know that. I know that very deeply. And I recognize that there are times when we are low, or when we cry and, it feels like I'm crying every day. I reached out to Courtney because this time of year is hard because of grief, bereavement grief. And I was just like, to get ready for this, I need somebody who is trained to help people like me. So I'm going to say to the three ladies here, we need to see you. We need to see more of you in more places on the internet. If you have social media, be out there talking about what you are capable of doing for people who we live in a global society. Like, come on, licensure, come on through for the global community, okay? But that social work and the marriage and family therapy and lots of other therapeutic professionals have the capacity and the ability to guide you appropriate to their licensure regulations, but nobody should be alone. Word Up with Temple is also in the chat. She is a part of our therapist community that shows up. If you're perimenopausal, menopausal, look, find people that can help you. If you are a new mother, that is Tori's, that is her jam. She is in lockstep with you. Find your tribe, find your people that can hold your hand for a time, for a season, because relief and release is available to you. I am honored to hold space with the people who have joined us today. I am honored to bring forward these beautiful, self-aware, Black femme embracing diaspora, conscious, culturally connected women that are going to be with us in this migration. This is our heritage. We are called to travel, to moving abroad And I want to be a conduit for helping people to consider the 360 view. Each of you all, your information is in the description, but if you can share how we can follow your journey or make one-on-one or group coaching connections with you, can you, each of you do that? Dr. Erica, can you start? Then Tori, then Courtney.
Sure. Thank you again for this conversation. I could do this for another hour. I've just enjoyed sharing space with you, sisters. So just thank you. I work with individuals, couples, and families and groups. And so I have launched micro support circles. One is specifically for Black women that are challenged with our imposter syndrome. Another is for Black women who are either in the process of expatriating or who have expatriated already. And you can find out information about all of that if you just email me. My email's in the description, drwilkinslmft@gmail.com. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing us here. It was so much fun to get to meet you guys too. So my private practice is Design to Heal, and if you go to designtoheal.org, you can see my therapy offerings, and you can also see my community for women. So if you're in the state of Texas and you need some trauma therapy, you can contact me through that website, designtoheal.org. If you're outside of Texas and you're looking for a community of women, I've started Next Chapter Collective. It's a group for women over 40 who they're done following outdated rules. They're leaving hustle behind. They want to build lives and businesses with more freedom, flow, and soul. If you go to my website and like hover on services, you'll see Community for Women 40 Plus on there, where you can check that out and learn more about that. It's not a replacement for therapy. I'm not a therapist to the women in that community, but I bring myself to the community, and myself is very reflective. So we often have morning and evening prompts. So women will slow down and ask themselves some important questions. Think of it like an interactive journal where you can comment and someone will comment back. We have mastermind meetings. We have sister circles. We have co-working together. It's a space that I've recently started, and I'm really excited about what it could be. So I encourage you to check it out.
Dee, this has just been a balm for my soul. Like, I just love us so much. I just never leave spaces with Black women not filled. And I just feel grateful for being asked to be here. My website is havenwellnesspllc.com. That's also my Instagram handle. And so I've not been active. I felt a little like you was talking to me about putting the stuff, but there's a bunch of stuff on there already, videos and different little tidbits. If you're just looking for a word, that's definitely on my Instagram. But yes, I offer individual, couples, family. I also do corporate events, and it's something called an intensive. I can say more about that if someone reaches out to me. If you go on my website and go under the contact, I'm really big on like, let's just do the 30-minute talk and see how I can support you, even if it's me supporting you to find the next person that you need to meet your need. So don't hesitate to reach out. And I also do some things here and virtually around supporting expats and helping them transition into this space. So I'm just honored to be here. Thank you.
And Tori, don't you have something coming up soon?
Yes, Dee. So I have a couple of things coming up soon. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a conversation with a few expat women about their specific mental health needs and see if we can kind of figure out where they can go and if I can be helpful for them, if I know someone else who could be helpful for them. And also, I'm having a 10-day nervous system reset inside my community. My community is a paid exclusive community, but the nervous system reset will be free. And if you go to the link that Dee has put in the description box, you can sign up for the waitlist for that. It's going to drop later this month. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I was like, come on, y'all, give me all the stuff. Give me all, don't leave us out here thinking we don't have no resources and y'all got all of the options and opportunities for us to engage. Okay, so Sam said at the very beginning, she said, I think I'm gonna be taking some many deep breaths over the course of this conversation. We are breathing with you. We are holding space with you as you turn and look in the mirror and see yourself, your full self. And that includes caring for the things that these ladies have said that can kind of go by the wayside because there's so much movement, especially if you are decluttering, if you are, 2, 3, 4 jobbing it so you can have that savings buffer for moving abroad. If you are, trying to sell your house, put your stuff in storage, there's a lot of movement, especially in those last few months. Don't leave yourself behind. Have somebody that checks in with you, that'll call you to check in with you, that has a way for you to meet and be in community. That has been the biggest blessing, because I'm a very kind of closed person, but isolation did not serve my healing process. Community has served my healing process. And so I am appreciative for each of you joining. And Pamela Jones out here, yes. All the things. We are doing all the things. So we can also add this to that checklist of things to do. Any final words that you all want to share? I almost hate to close this space because it has been nourishing and healing for me.
Well, I just thank you, Dee, for always bringing up the quiet parts out loud. I just really appreciate that about you and your channel, and how you and your husband just talk about some really hard-hitting things. And so thank you for creating a space to hold this kind of space.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. So, all right. So if we invite you to take that deep breath and join us again next Thursday. Goodbye for now. Remember, you can share this with a sister friend, and the resources that we have mentioned for each of the guests are in the description box. Have a good evening. Bye for now.